Scandinavian Bob here, hi. So when does NoFap get easier? Well, let's take a look at some different NoFap levels in terms of danger zones and levels of difficulty. Now, big disclaimer, the levels you are about to see are mostly created from my own experiences with all the streaks I had back when I was rebooting. However, friends of mine have also said that these levels seem to be pretty accurate for them as well. But you should always remember that the NoFap journey is different for everyone since we are all unique. So your mileage may vary, so you need to take this video with a grain of salt. Alright, so if you understand that, let's jump in and have some fun. Level 1. Now, day 1 was never the hardest day for me. The withdrawals had not yet kicked in, and besides the self-blame of relapsing, day 1 was never that problematic for me. But then I usually started to feel bad on day 2, and during my first year of trying NoFap, day 3, 4 and 5 were really nasty. During this phase, I also used to have really strong cravings for junk food, alcohol, or just some other form of instant gratification, and this is so typical when your brain is screaming for a dopamine fix. However, if I managed to not relapse during these 5 days, I had passed the first danger point. Level 2. Alright, so the next level was already a little bit easier. But don't get me wrong, it was still plenty hard, and most of you know by now that there is a big spike in testosterone around day 7, which is also why this is the next danger zone. But if I managed to stay strong during this phase, I could climb up to the next level. Level 3. If you made it past 14 days, you should congratulate yourself, because the first 2 weeks of a no PMO journey is the absolute hardest part. That said, it is common to descend into a flatline sometime during the second week. However, the flatline does not necessarily make it more difficult in terms of relapse risks. It's just that the flatline sucks. Level 4. Now my cravings for junk food and short-term gratification were already a bit lower, and the cravings to watch adult sites became less aggressive. Now that makes it a bit easier, but it was still very difficult for me, because instead of urges being very aggressive and sharp during this phase, they became more dark instead. So I used to call this phase the void, and yes, most of the time I was deep into a flatline around here. Another interesting thing to note is that in the first years of me trying to overcome my addiction, level 1 was actually the hardest part for me. But during the last year of my reboot, when I was really close to overcoming this whole mess, then level 3 was actually the hardest period for me. So that just goes to show that it also depends on how much your brain has healed between relapses during your streaks, and that these levels may be more accurate if you are starting from the bottom or close to it. Level 5. Now, if I made it past 30 days, then it always started to get easier for me. Now, don't get me wrong, it was still hard, especially some of the time, but the difference in difficulty was really noticeable once I got past 30 days. Yes, it was like someone had lifted at least a few of the burdens off my shoulders. Level 6. And if I made it past day 60, then I reached yet another level in terms of how easy it felt. I remember the first time I reached 60 plus days. There was a specific day, I think it could have been day 74. Now, don't quote me on that, my memory could deceive me here. But I remember thinking how the thought of using adult sites just didn't really do anything for me. I almost found it difficult to understand why I had been so drawn to it before. I had clearly reached another level in terms of how easy I found it. Now, a word of warning here. If you made it this far, don't think you're out of the woods yet, because relapses can still happen. I certainly did relapse even here myself. In fact, just a few days after me thinking those thoughts, I remember having a really stressful day. And at the end of that day, when I was lying in my sofa, flipping between the TV channels, on one channel there was an R-rated movie, which I didn't know would be playing that night. And even though it was not fully explicit, something snapped in my brain and all those old addiction pathways lit up and I just relapsed. Once again, I have to remind you of the dangers of stress when rebooting. I would probably have managed to shut it down if I hadn't had such a stressful day. So a part of me wanted to escape and get some form of relief, and that in combination with the addiction pathways firing up, damn, it was just too much. Now luckily I did overcome my addiction in the end, but only after years of trial and error. And if you want to speed up your own journey, then take a look at my last video where I review an online course for quitting adult sites. You can see that video on the screen right here. Just click on that and it'll take you there. This is Scandinavian Bob signing out for today. Consider subscribing for more helpful videos, and remember, like Winston Churchill used to say, if you are going through hell, keep going.